One of the most stunning features of the Medfield State Hospital land is its location, its landscape design, and the amazing natural resources that surround the land. In this interview I did with Monique Allen, who is the owner of the Garden Continuum here in Medfield. She also is a certified conservation specialist, and she was the wetlands specialist for the Charles River Gateway remediation project. She talks about the fact that the land itself is as important as the buildings, and how the relationship between the landscape design complements the building layout. She also talks about the fact that we have 100 rare species of trees up at the Medfield State Hospital site. And she goes over many more aspects, again, of the beautiful land. This beautiful and accessible site was as important in the past when the Medfield State Hospital was designed and developed as it is today as we look to the final master plan. Hi, I want to welcome you to our town, our land, our future, where we are talking about the former Medfield State Hospital property and what's happening up there. Today, our guest is Monique Allen, who is the owner of the Garden Continuum, and she's also a certified landscape designer and certified conservation specialist, and also for the project or up at the remediation at on the Charles River up at the former State Hospital land. She is the wetlands specialist. So we're going to talk about the trees, and just the fact that it is a wonderful archive of living.
It's living
beauty.
Plants, living beauty, absolutely. Right. I mean, the site itself is tremendous. There's been a lot of talk about the buildings.
Right.
And as you know, it was designed in the cottage plan.
Right.
So the way the buildings were laid out, you know, was very, very important. It was not only important to the hospital itself and how the hospital functions, which I can't speak to really, but it was really important about how the roads worked and how the center pieces of lawn worked. And then in particular, what you and I are so interested in about is the trees.
Yeah,
is those
there's
trees.
some so interesting. And you know, right now, so many people are up there walking their dogs, enjoying these gorgeous trees, but there are some very special trees that are up there.
There's some really special trees, and when you look at the collection of trees as a collection, you said it right. It's a living archive.
Right.
It's basically, if you think about it from the perspective of evolution and ecology, these trees tell a story. They tell a really long story. Some of those trees could be 100 years old, 75, 80.
Well, the State Hospital was built in 1892, so we know that some of them could be over 100 years old.
Yes, absolutely. So the real question is, you know, which one of these trees predate the hospital? Did they actually work around? And you know, we don't have that answer, but you know, if we looked at each building and the date of the building and then looked at the tree next to it, we could probably date them within a quarter century. But we have some oak trees that far surpass the roof line of a building. So you know that oak tree is got 100 years anyway. So it's critical when you're looking through the site to look at it kind of bird's eye view, like the big, huge cottage plan and then the way the trees were laid out. There was a lot of thought, just a lot of thought in how it was done.
So tell me a little bit more. So again, the cottage plan, because Medfield State Hospital was the first asylum. I even hate using that word.
Yeah, I know.
But asylum with that plan. So in terms of landscaping and the trees, what does that mean?
Okay, so the idea with the cottage plan just sort of basically not thinking about a hospital necessarily, is that everything was generally low, so 2 stories, and it was laid out with a nice grid pattern of roads. And in between those roads, you would generally have an open space. And so the idea was to balance your structure with your open space. And what that did was it was a much softer way of living, and it didn't feel like an institution. So if you think about college campuses, those are generally your cottage plan. You know, they're wide open, and so this really has a campus feel to it. The thing that's so amazing about this site, and can I show you a picture?
Yes,
So
please.
something that's really amazing about this site is if you look at this picture, what you see is organization. You see
Right.
2 buildings.
Right.
You see a tree on the corner of each building, and then you see a tree in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay? And
Symmetry.
Symmetry. And if you look at the site and you walk around the site, you see this repeated over and over and over again. And the idea was that the trees, I'll show you another one, this one's kind of fun, that the trees were anchoring the buildings.
Yeah.
The buildings, which are actually really big when you walk around there. I mean, we don't build buildings like this anymore with those huge windows.
Yes.
But you can see that the buildings start to look small. Right? They're like cottages.
Right.
And so the trees begin to anchor the buildings down to the earth. So they don't feel so big anymore. And so it's just a really, really cool thing, and you see it repeated throughout the campus. A last picture that I'll show you just right now is this is a picture of one of the roads on campus, and it's got, you can see it's called an alley of trees. And if you think of Boston and the Emerald Necklace,
Right.
and you think of places like the Arnold Arboretum, names like Frederick Law Olmsted come up.
Right.
And so the really important work that he did about putting trees in place that would span the test of time. So they were multi-generational, right? So the tree stayed, but we came and went.
Right, right. So very, very thoughtful placement.
Yes.
And this was kind of a trend at the time the
Yes.
hospital was built.
Yes, so in 1872, the Arnold Arboretum, I believe, opened or was being built and developed, and it was quite a legacy for Frederick Law Olmsted. And so this campus was built between 1892 and 1896. It opened.
Right.
So it was about 20 years after the Arnold Arboretum, and the Arnold Arboretum was a pioneering effort. So this was the sign of the times. This was, you know, trees were really important, really, really important too, and they were thought of as important as the buildings.
Yes.
So the placement of them was critical. And when you walk around the site, it's actually really compelling because you'll walk and you'll see a building and it'll be lined with pine trees. And right to the side of it is a parking lot or a road. And you can see how the windows of the building look into the pine trees, not at the road or the parking lot.
Right.
It was like mindful of screening views and framing views. And trees do that.
Yeah, and particularly important. I mean, this is a place where people came to heal.
Right.
And so to look out onto a tree, to look out onto nature, was certainly a much, more enjoyable thing than to look at a parking lot or whatever. And so they really, the thought process was very deep.
It was incredible. It was really mindful. And the kind of cool thing about it from a horticultural standpoint, I think everyone in Medfield has kind of probably heard about Ellis Allen's map
Yes,
of this
yes.
place. So I think Ellis Allen used to be the tree warden in town.
He was.
And there's this really fun map, which I don't have a copy of, but I'm sure you guys can scrounge one up right now. Mine's all written on.
Yeah.
But I have actually been photographing the site for probably a full 3 months now.
Right.
And I started photographing the site, as you saw in those pictures, with the trees with no leaves on them, because it's far more compelling to see them without the leaves next to the building, because you can really see how big they are.
So how old,
And
really?
yes.
How the age.
The age of them,
Yeah.
exactly. And in walking around, it was a little challenging because not all the trees are there. And I'll show you this because I just can't help myself, because I think it's really very interesting. I've got 2 of them here. This is one of sort of the standing dead.
Yes.
And but you can see where this tree was located.
Right.
It was located right on the corner of this building. Now remember, also shade trees create shade in the summer, which means your buildings are cooler.
Right.
These buildings were built before central air. And so having leafy trees on the corner, the south corner or the west corner of a building made a lot of sense. You know, this is another one. This is one of my favorite ones on site. It's just so cool because you can see
amazing.
the decline of this tree, how it declined and how huge it was when it finally gave up the ghost.
Yeah.
So his map is great, but the truth of the matter is not all the plants are there.
Right.
And so I'm really interested in what is there and what might be worth preserving.
So you are working on an updated map.
Yeah, so I'm trying to work on an updated
Yeah.
map, but more than mapping, because I'm not a cartographer, so I
Right.
might need some help with actual mapping. It would be really great to hire an engineer and GPS the trees.
Oh, yes.
That would be
Yes.
a really worthwhile project, I think, during the whole redevelopment.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm doing right now is I'm mapping horticulturally.
Yeah.
So here's a plant that many of us don't know. This is called paperbark maple. Acer Gricium.
So beautiful.
And you can see over here is the beautiful shape of the tree. And the reason I took a picture of my hand close up to the bark was to show you, number one, this really cool cinnamon peely bark. So
Yes,
paperbark maple is a
yes, it's
wonderful
pretty.
tree to have. But if any of you have a paperbark maple, you know they grow so slowly.
Yeah.
To get a plant this big means that thing's been there for so long. And there's 4 of them in a row.
Wow.
And so that's a really cool thing to map and write down, and maybe we could do botanical labeling and kind of take a sort of tear a page from the Arnold Arboretum's way of mapping trees.
So these trees, they're rare.
Some of them, yeah.
And so we may, as we're thinking about what we're going to do in the land use
Yeah.
for the former state hospital, take this into consideration, and hopefully we can work around some of this. We don't want to lose these beautiful like legacy
Right.
trees.
You make a brilliant point. This is a beech tree. This is a European beech.
Yeah.
It's kind of mid-campus, and as you can see, it's surrounded by pavement. It's got a road on one side and a parking lot on the other side. This tree has dealt with quite a bit of squishing, as it were. So it would be a very easy one to save. Very easy because it already has compaction all around it.
Yeah.
And as you can see, you probably can't tell totally the scale, but look at how it's looming over the
I know.
actual
It's
building.
Amazing. It's beautiful.
So to save a European beech or to save a 100-year-old oak, I mean, an oak tree isn't necessarily a rare tree, but an oak tree that's stick straight with a perfect crown that's over 100 years old, that's rare.
We have this phenomenal soil up there. I mean, you and I have talked about it before, but I just think, wow, what a
Just
treasure.
want to plant your carrots up there.
You know what? But really,
Well, it goes on forever.
Because that's some of the thoughts have been, garden to table agriculture
Yeah,
up
yeah,
there, you
yeah.
know, and that's a possibility. And the fact that we have this tremendous, rich loam,
It's like black gold.
black gold.
It
I
is.
mean, that's really.
It's
we
an
don't wanna-
amazing
We don't want
resource.
to lose that.
Right, and we generally don't think of soil as a resource, right? We don't think about, you figure, well, I could just, go to Sammy White's or Levels and buy soil, right?
Right.
But you can't buy what's going on up
Right.
at Medfield State Hospital. And you also can't have it if you don't preserve it, right? So that would be the kind of thing where, the effort of going in ahead of time with bulldozers in areas where you have to drive lots of trucks.
Yes.
And pushing all of that soil up into big piles and then saving it.
Yes.
Never driving on it, like literally digging it up
Right,
and putting
right,
it in a big
right,
pile,
right.
so that you can get 3 feet down. I'm sure that soil goes beyond 3 feet, quite frankly, but if you could save all that topsoil, and I'm not talking about 2 inches, I'm talking about 3 feet.
Yes.
Like it's amazing how much is up there, and it really is just what a gift that Medfield even has that.
Yeah.
So the trees are a part of it, the soil's a part of it, the Charles River is a part of it. It's just
So we have really been entrusted
yes.
with this amazing natural legacy, this very beautiful area. Yes, we hope that all the future plans are going to honor. Certainly the Master Planning Committee does want to honor the environment and what we've been given.
Right.
You know, and you've done just such amazing work.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you. Well, I believe in it, and I know you do too. You know, I've had plenty of offline discussions about how amazing that place is, and you know, I think one of the things that happens in big projects like this
Yes.
is that, you know, we do get ahead of ourselves a little bit, because at the end of the day, we are interested in the buildings, and we are interested in the human interaction with those buildings. Like, are they going to be you know, low-income housing? Are they going to be, you know, luxury homes? Are we going to have any retail up there? Are we going to have farm to table? You know, all the things that we could, arts and culture,
yeah, there's so
you know,
many
all the
ideas.
things that we could have up there, because those things impress upon our experience. And so what happens sometimes is we get so excited about that what's already there maybe gets missed a little. And so the thing that I think you wanted in doing this talk today was really to put out there for everyone the forward thought of and pre-planning just around the land.
You have just watched one of 5 edited videos from past episodes of Our Town, Our Land, Our Future. We want to let you know that you can look forward to 2 brand new videos. The first one will talk about the rationale and the benefits of the final plan. The second will talk about what you can expect at special town meeting. For instance, you'll be voting on the zoning that will support the plan. As a way to stay in touch and informed as to what the Master Planning Committee is doing in this final stage, you can go to our Facebook page. We have a Twitter account, and we have a newsletter that goes out every week. So you can sign up for that through our Facebook or our website. Our website, www.mshvision.net, is a good resource. We hope you've enjoyed this video and the other videos in this series. Thank you.